Welcome to the new video. Old Crypto coined the story of the Washington Quarter, often associated with the idea of liberty and American pride. It is one of the most fascinating journeys in the history of American coinage. For collectors, historians, and everyday Americans, the quarter dollar is far more than just 25 cents. It is a small piece of metal that carries the spirit of a nation, its traditions, and its values. When people talk about the Liberty State quarter dollar, they're often referring to the rich symbolism connected to the American ideals of freedom, independence, and unity. The quarter dollar has circulated to the hands of millions of Americans for decades, witnessing countless moments of everyday life while quietly telling the story of the United States. The design most people recognize today features George Washington on the front of the coin. This design first appeared in 1932 to commemorate the 200th birthday of Washington, one of the most respected leaders in American history. His portrait replaced the earlier standing Liberty design and marked the beginning of a new era for the quarter dollar. Washington was chosen not only because of his leadership during the American Revolution, but also because he symbolized honesty, strength, and dedication to the country. These qualities perfectly match the message that American coins were meant to represent. The quarter dollar itself is produced by the United States Mint, the official body responsible for creating American coins. Established in 1792, the Mint has produced billions of coins over the centuries, each with its own design, purpose, and historical context. The Washington Quarter became one of the most successful coin designs ever created, remaining in circulation for decades with only small changes to its appearance. The simple yet powerful portrait of George Washington, combined with inscriptions like Liberty and In God We Trust, gave the coin a timeless look that Americans quickly grew to recognize. When examining a Liberty-themed quarter dollar, collectors often start by studying the details of the obverse side. The obverse shows Washington's profile facing left, with the word Liberty placed above his head. This single word carries enormous significance. Liberty represents the core principle on which the United States was founded, the belief that people should live free from oppression and have the right to shape their own future. By placing the word prominently on the coin, the designers ensured that every American who used the quarter would be reminded of the nation's founding ideals. The reverse side of earlier Washington quarters features a powerful image of a bald eagle, a national symbol of the United States. The eagle stands with its wings spread wide, holding arrows and olive branches in its talons. This design represents both strength and peace. The arrows symbolize the country's ability to defend itself, while the olive branches represent a desire for peace and cooperation. Together, these elements create a powerful message. The United States values peace but will remain strong and ready to protect its freedom. Over the decades, the quarter dollar became one of the most widely used coins in the United States. It was used in vending machines, parking meters, laundry machines, and everyday purchases. Because of this widespread use, the coin became deeply connected to daily American life. People often carried quarters in their pockets without thinking much about them, yet each coin carried historical meaning, an artistic design that reflected the country's identity. One of the most exciting developments in the history of the quarter came in 1999 with the launch of the 50 State Quarters program. This program completely transformed how people viewed the quarter dollar. Instead of a single reverse design, the United States Mint began releasing new quarters each year that celebrated different states across the country. Each state received its own unique design, representing important symbols, landmarks, or historical moments connected to that state. The State Quarters program quickly became one of the most successful coin programs in American history. Millions of people who had never collected coins before suddenly became interested in searching for the new designs. Families, children, and collectors began saving quarters in special albums, trying to complete the full set of all 50 states. This created a nationwide treasure hunt that lasted nearly a decade and introduced a new generation to the world of coin collecting. Every state quarter still featured George Washington on the front, maintaining the classic look of the Washington Quarter. However, the reverse side changed with each release, showcasing images that represented each state's heritage. For example, some coins featured famous landmarks, while others displayed animals, historical figures, or cultural symbols that reflected the identity of the state. These designs helped teach Americans about the diversity and history of their own country. Collectors quickly noticed that not all quarters were equal in value. While most state quarters were worth only 25 cents, certain rare examples became extremely valuable due to minting errors, low mintage numbers, or exceptional condition. Coins graded in near-perfect condition by professional grading services could sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. This possibility of discovering a valuable coin in everyday change added excitement to the hobby. Another important factor that affects the value of a Liberty State quarter dollar is the mint mark. Mint marks indicate where the coin was produced. Most Washington quarters are minted in Philadelphia Mint or Denver Mint, and their coins carry small p or d marks near the date. Some special collector versions are produced at the San Francisco Mint, usually marked with an S. Coins from different mints can vary slightly in rarity and value, depending on how many were produced. The material used to create the quarter has also changed over time. Before 1965, U.S. quarters were made from 90% silver. However, due to rising silver prices, the United States government switched to a copper-nickel-clad composition. This new composition allowed the mint to continue producing coins without the high cost of precious metals. Although modern quarters no longer contain silver, they remain popular among collectors because of their historical significance and wide variety of designs. Coin grading plays an important role in determining the value of a quarter dollar. Grading refers to the process of evaluating a coin's condition from heavily worn to nearly perfect. Professional grading companies examine coins carefully, looking at factors such as luster, scratches, strike quality, and overall preservation. Coins that receive high grades, such as MS-65 or higher, are considered extremely desirable among collectors because they show very little wear and maintain their original mint shine. The liberty theme that appears on many American coins reflects the nation's deep commitment to freedom. Liberty is not just a word on a coin. It represents the spirit of the American people and their long struggle for independence. From the early days of the nation to the modern era, American coins have served as miniature works of art that communicate national values. The quarter dollar is a perfect example of this tradition, combining Step 1, the story of the 1974 D. Washington quarter, begins during an interesting time in American history when the United States was experiencing economic change, cultural transformation, and growing interest in coin collecting. Minted in Denver in 1974, this quarter belongs to the long-running Washington Quarter Series, a design that had already been circulating for more than 4 decades by that time. Originally introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th birthday of George Washington, the design became one of the most recognizable coins in American pockets. By 1974, the Washington Quarter had already survived major changes, including the shift away from silver in 1965, when rising metal prices forced the United States Mint to create coins using copper-nickel-clad metal instead of the traditional 90% silver composition. The 1974 D quarter is therefore part of this modern-clad era, a time when billions of quarters were produced to meet the growing demand of commerce in the United States. Yet even though millions of these coins were struck, collectors today still search for high-grade examples, rare mint errors, and pristine pieces that can command surprisingly strong prices in the coin market. The Denver Mint, represented by the small D mint mark on the coin, played a major role in producing circulating coinage during the 1970s. The facility, known formerly as the Denver Mint, had been striking coins since 1906 and became one of the most important production centers for American currency. In 1974, the Denver Mint produced hundreds of millions of Washington quarters to keep up with the needs of businesses, banks, and everyday transactions across the country. Each coin was struck with immense pressure, imprinting the iconic profile of George Washington on the front and the heraldic eagle design on the reverse. These designs were created by sculptor John Flanagan, whose artistic work helped shape the appearance of American coinage for generations. The obverse shows Washington facing left, with the word Liberty above his head and the motto "In God We Trust" appearing beside the portrait. On the reverse, a powerful eagle spreads its wings while perched on a bundle of arrows, symbolizing strength and readiness to defend the nation. When people look at a 1974 D. Washington quarter today, they might initially think it is just an ordinary coin worth 25 cents. After all, billions were produced during the 1970s. However, the world of coin collecting reveals that even common coins can hold hidden stories and unexpected value. Collectors carefully examine details such as strike quality, luster, surface preservation, and rarity of mint errors. Coins graded in extremely high condition, especially those that have never circulated, can be worth far more than their face value. Professional grading companies like Professional Coin Grading Service and Numismatic Guarantee Company evaluate coins using a scale from 1 to 70. A coin graded MS 65 or higher can be particularly desirable to collectors because it shows strong detail and minimal marks from handling. Finding a 1974 D quarter in top condition can be challenging because most coins from that year circulated heavily for decades. Another fascinating aspect of the 1974 D Washington quarter is the possibility of mint errors. Mint errors occur when something unusual happens during the coin-making process. For example, a die crack, double strike, off-center strike, or clipped planchet can transform an ordinary coin into a collector's treasure. These mistakes happen because coin production is a complex mechanical process involving high-speed presses, metal blanks, and carefully engraved dies. When an error occurs and the coin escapes the mint without being caught, it can become a rare collectible. Some collectors spend years searching through rolls of quarters, hoping to discover such a unique piece. Stories of valuable error coins often inspire new collectors to examine their pocket change more closely. The design of the Washington quarter remained largely unchanged from 1932 until the late 1990s, when the United States introduced the 50-state quarters program. But in 1970, for the classic Eagle reverse was still in use, making the coin part of a historic era of American coinage. During the early 1970s, the United States economy was dealing with inflation and changing metal markets, which had already forced the removal of silver from circulating coins. Despite these changes, the Washington quarter continued to represent stability and national identity. The image of George Washington symbolized leadership and independence, reminding Americans of the country's founding principles. Coins like the 1974 D quarter traveled across the nation, passing through countless hands in stores, vending machines, and banks. Collectors today often search for coins like the 1974 D quarter and mint sets released by the United States Mint. These sets preserve coins in uncirculated condition shortly after they were produced. Many people who purchased mint sets in the 1970s store them away as souvenirs or investments, and decades later those sets can provide collectors with beautifully preserved coins. Opening an old mint set can feel like traveling back in time, revealing coins that look almost exactly as they did when they left the mint. The brilliant luster, sharp edges, and untouched surfaces make these coins particularly appealing to numismatists. Another factor that influences the value of a 1974 D Washington quarter is its grade and eye appeal. Eye appeal refers to how attractive a coin looks overall, including its luster, color, and strike quality. Some coins may have subtle toning, which occurs when the metal reacts with the environment over time. Toning can produce shades of gold, blue, or purple on the surface of a coin. In certain cases, beautifully toned coins are even more desirable to collectors because they display unique natural patterns that cannot be replicated. A 1974 D quarter with strong luster and appealing toning might stand out among other coins from the same year. The process of minting a quarter begins with the creation of a metal blank called a planchet. In the clad coinage era, the planchet is made from a layered structure consisting of a copper core sandwiched between two outer layers of copper-nickel alloy. This combination provides durability while maintaining the silvery appearance people expect from American coins. After the planchet is cut and cleaned, it moves through a machine that strikes it between two engraved dies, impressing the design onto the metal with tremendous force. The result is a finished coin ready to enter circulation. In 1974, the Denver Mint's presses operated at incredible speed, producing thousands of coins per hour to meet national demand. Over time, many of these quarters became worn through everyday use. Coins traveled through cash registers, vending machines, parking meters, and countless transactions. Each exchange added tiny scratches or signs of wear. That is why finding a 1974 D quarter in near-perfect condition today can be quite rare. Some collectors search through bankrolls, while others attend coin shows hoping to discover an exceptional specimen. The thrill of the hunt is one of the reasons coin collecting remains such a popular hobby around the world. The market value of a 1974 D. Washington quarter depends greatly on its condition. Circulated examples usually remain worth only their face value of 25 cents. However, coins graded in higher mint state conditions can sell for several dollars or even more today. Step 2 story of the 1981 P. Washington quarter, often called the Liberty Quarter by many collectors because of the strong American symbolism it carries, begins in the early years of the 1980s when the United States was going through economic change, political transformation, and a renewed sense of national identity. The $quarter coin, one of the most widely used coins in everyday American commerce, had already been part of American life for nearly 2 centuries. By 1981, the design that Americans were familiar with was a classic George Washington portrait created by sculptor John Flanagan, a design that had first appeared in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of Washington's birth. Nearly 50 years later, in 1981, this design was still circulating in the pockets, purses, and cash registers of millions of Americans, quietly carrying history through everyday transactions. The 1981 P quarter was produced at the historic United States Mint Facility in Philadelphia, one of the oldest minting facilities in the country. Coins struck there traditionally carried the letter P to indicate their origin. Although the Philadelphia Mint had existed since 1792, the mint mark P had not appeared on quarters until later decades, making the 1981 P part of a newer era in mint identification. This small letter beneath the date might seem insignificant to a casual observer, but to coin collectors it tells an important story about where and when the coin was produced. At first glance, the 1981 P. Washington quarter looks very similar to other quarters produced in the late 20th century. On the obverse side, the front of the coin, the dignified profile of George Washington faces left, his hair tied back in a colonial-style ribbon. Above his head appears the word Liberty, one of the most powerful ideals in American history. Beneath Washington's portrait is the year 1981, and to the side sits the small P mint mark identifying Philadelphia as the place of origin. Encircling the design are the national motto, "In God We Trust," and the timeless symbolism that has defined American coinage for generations. Turning the coin over to the reverse side reveals another powerful national symbol, the American bald eagle with wings spread wide. This design was also created by John Flanagan and reflects the strength and independence of the United States. The eagle stands proudly with arrows in its talons and olive branches beneath it, representing both military readiness and a desire for peace. Above the eagle appears the phrase, United States of America, while below it reads $quarter, indicating the coin's value of 25 cents. Although millions of these coins were minted in 1981, the story behind them is far more interesting than their everyday appearance might suggest. During the early 1980s, the United States economy was experiencing high inflation and changing financial policies. Metal prices had fluctuated dramatically during the previous decade, especially after the coinage metal crisis of the late 1960s. Because of this, the composition of the quarter had already changed from its earlier silver content to a copper-nickel-clad structure. The 1981 P quarter therefore contained layers of copper and nickel rather than precious metal, making it more practical and affordable for mass production. The total mintage of the 1981 P. Washington quarter reached well over 100 million coins, meaning that these quarters were extremely common in everyday circulation. They moved through banks, grocery stores, vending machines, and gas stations across the United States. For most Americans, the coin was simply another piece of change used for parking meters or laundry machines. Yet for collectors and historians, each of these coins carries a small piece of American heritage. One of the reasons collectors pay attention to coins like the 1981 P quarter is the possibility of rare varieties or high-grade examples. While the majority of these coins circulated heavily and show wear today, a small number survived in exceptional condition. Coins that were preserved directly from mint rolls or stored carefully in coin albums can still display their original luster and sharp detail. These high-grade examples can command significantly higher prices in the numismatic market than ordinary circulated coins. Professional grading organizations, such as Professional Coin Grading Service and Numismatic Guarantee Company, evaluate coins on a numerical scale from 1 to 70. A coin graded MS 65 or higher is considered to be in mint state condition, meaning it shows no signs of circulation. For a coin like the 1981 P. Washington quarter, achieving a grade above MS 66 or MS 67 can be extremely difficult, because even small scratches or bag marks from the minting process can lower the grade. This is why collectors often search through rolls of old quarters, hoping to find an unusually well-preserved example. Another interesting aspect of the 1981 P quarter involves potential mint errors. During the minting process, small mechanical or human mistakes can sometimes create unusual coins. These may include double dies, off-center strikes, clip planchets, or coins struck on the wrong metal blank. Although such errors are rare, they can transform an ordinary coin into a valuable collector's item. Some collectors specialize in searching for these errors, examining every detail under magnification in hopes of discovering something unique. Beyond its value as a collectible, the 1981 P quarter also reflects the artistic tradition of American coin design. John Flanagan's portrait of George Washington was inspired by a bust created by the famous French sculptor Jean-Antoine Houdon in the late 18th century. Houdon had sculpted Washington from life, making his work one of the most accurate representations of the first president. When Flanagan adapted the portrait for the 1932 quarter design, he preserved much of Houdon's realism and dignity, giving the coin a timeless appearance that lasted for decades. For almost 70 years, this Washington quarter design remained largely unchanged. Generations of Americans grew up recognizing the familiar image of Washington on their coins. Children collected them in piggy banks, travelers used them in toll booths, and businesses relied on them for vending machines. The quarter became one of the most practical and widely used denominations in the entire U.S. monetary system. In the context of American history, 1981 was a significant year. It marked the beginning of the presidency of Ronald Reagan, whose economic policies and political leadership would shape the decade. While major national events were unfolding, the humble quarter continued to circulate quietly, connecting everyday Americans to their country's founding ideals. Every time someone spent a quarter, they handled a small piece of national symbolism featuring the face of George Washington and the word liberty. For coin collectors today, the 1981 P. Washington quarter serves as a reminder that even modern coins can hold historical importance. Although millions were minted, each coin represents a moment in time when the United States was navigating economic challenges and political change. Collectors often appreciate such coins not only for their potential value, but also for the stories they tell about the era in which they were produced. When examining a 1981 P quarter closely, collectors often look for several key features. First, they check the clarity of Washington's hair details and facial features. On well-struck coins, the lines I.e. pan